Fear and terror in Moscow, Idaho. Everyone scared that a violent killer is on the loose. 4 students from the University of Idaho were murdered inside their off-campus house, all stabbed to death in the early morning hours of November 13th. 2 of the victims were last seen on video at a local food truck about a mile from their home. At the time of the murders, there were 2 more roommates in the house, but no one called 911 until noon. Why didn't the roommates hear this quadruple murder? Tonight, we take you inside the murder house and try to make some sense of what happened to these 4 young college students.
I'm Vinny Politan. Thanks so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments and trying to make some sense of something that, to me, doesn't make a lot of sense. It doesn't make a lot of sense, some of the circumstances surrounding what happened to those 4 college students. It's 4 college students. And you look at that number, 4 victims and 1 knife. How does that happen? What exactly was going on? Did they know the person? Was there a conversation? How quickly was it done? Was it done in different rooms? Were they sleeping? Were they knocked out? How does one person, and they keep saying suspect, how does one person with 1 knife kill 4 people? No one got away? Were they trapped? Were they being threatened? I don't know. Again, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me tonight, what happened in Idaho. The other part of it, you have the 4 victims. There were 2 more people living in that house. 2 other roommates. 4 people being stabbed to death. An incredibly bloody scene. I've seen pictures with the blood oozing out of the side of the house the next day. So how are 2 people inside there that didn't hear anything, didn't see anything? We know there wasn't a call until like noon the next day. And they're saying that the murder was sometime in the, middle of the night, early morning hours. But for hours, no one was called. No one knew what had happened in there except, I guess, for the killer who took off. It's a lot of questions. But the one thing to me that is very clear is that there's a lot of fear tonight. A whole lot of fear tonight in Idaho. Now, this is a brutal killing for innocent people, for people with so much ahead of them, just living their college life. I mean, so many of us have done exactly what they were doing, right? You're in college, this year we're gonna live off campus. Or yeah, we're gonna get an apartment, a house. Yeah, 4 of us, 6 of us will get it. We'll split the rent up. We'll get something close to campus so we can walk back and forth, take our bikes, quick car ride if we need to. And it'll be fun. It'll be fun. We'll have a kitchen, we'll cook a little bit, we'll go out. We'll start to grow up. We'll get ready for the rest of our lives. But it didn't happen, not for these 4. I want you to take a listen, because that fear tonight, the chief from the Moscow police speaking last night or yesterday, late in the day, take a listen to what he says here and listen closely.
We do not have a suspect at this time, and that individual is still out there. We cannot say that there's no threat to the community, and as we have stated, please stay vigilant, report any suspicious activity, and be aware of your surroundings at all times.
This was significant because this was a change. This was a change from the original statement that was released. Okay, what he just said is, we cannot say there's no threat. But on November 15th, they said, based on information from the preliminary investigation, investigators believe this was an isolated, targeted attack, and there is no immediate threat to the community at large. I don't know how you can say that if you don't have a suspect. Or you do have a suspect, you just don't have him in custody. You know who did it, but he's not in custody, or she's not in custody, or they're not in custody. I believe they know a lot more than they have said. I believe that. And that was probably the reason for this original statement. But there's a killer still out there, and nobody knows who he or she or they are tonight. Let me bring in my guests. Joining me in Boise, Idaho, a reporter with the Idaho Statesman, Sally Krudzig, is with us. And in Salt Lake City, Utah, retired police commander and host of the Profiling Evil podcast. Check it out on YouTube. Mike King is with us. Great to see you, Mike. Mike, I'm going to start with Sally. Sally, describe for me your thoughts about what the vibe is on campus, whether it's the students, the people in the community tonight, now with word that they cannot say there is not a threat to this community.
I do think there's a lot of fear on campus and the surrounding area right now. Many students have chosen to go home. Thanksgiving break is coming up, and rather than finish classes until that, many of them have gone home. We had a reporter out there knocking on doors in the neighborhood, and it was really hard to find anyone because so many of those homes are rented out by students, and they'd all gone home.
They've left. I want you to take a look at Autumn Goncalves, who's the victim, one of the victim's sister, posted this on Instagram yesterday. Mike, take a look at what she said. She said, if you have friends, family, or loved ones in Moscow, our family encourages you to get them home. Police say isolated, targeted attack, but it is isolated until it isn't. No one is in custody, therefore no one is safe. Whoever did this to my sisters, Maddie and Kaylee, Zaina and Ethan, is still out there. And if he's sick enough to murder 4 sweet, innocent humans so brutally, he is sick enough to do it to anyone else. Mike, how would you assess the current threat, either in that area, at that school, on that campus?
Yeah, I think you've got to take this serious. You've got to remind people that they are responsible for the level of risk that they're willing to take into their lives, going out late at night, traveling alone, walking out of the mall alone after dark. Vinny, take advantage of the school's security system that the university has increased the number of officers on duty now, it sounds like. Escorts are available to get people to and from their vehicles. But that doesn't change in daily life. We ought to be really looking at how much risk we take when we decide, oh, I know it's dark and I know there's a group of people over there or there's a suspicious looking car, but I don't want to sound stupid, so I'm going to just go and hope I get to my car in time. These things are really, really serious. And the police department, they may have stumbled a little bit in the beginning when they said there's not a threat to the community. Holy cow, if you haven't arrested somebody and they're saying he or that they're making this singular in nature, it sounds like they know that there's somebody that was responsible for this act, but they don't know who it is because they haven't made the arrest, or they haven't found them at least.
And Mike, if they knew who it was and they were trying to find that person, would they tell the public, or would there be a reason to withhold that? If they knew who they're looking for, is there ever a reason to withhold that information while you're searching for this person?
Man, what an incredibly difficult balance beam that is, isn't it? I mean, you have this interest in saving and protecting the public and alerting them and bringing this predator to justice as quickly as you can. So one side of the fence would say, absolutely. You say, we're looking for this individual. This is the kind of car we last knew them driving in. Here's where they frequent. But when you do some of those things, you put at risk the chance to gather maybe some forensics evidence or follow and watch them in patterns they're doing. But we're not looking for missing bodies here, Vinny. We're looking for a suspect that committed 4 homicides or multiple suspects, and you got to get them off the street as fast as you can.
Yeah, and Sally, what have they said about the weapon here? What do we know about the potential weapon?
So initially what we heard was it was some sort of edged weapon. We were talking to local store owners, and it turns out police have been going around asking about specific brands of military grade knives, asking, have you sold any of these types of knives recently? And then we just got the coroner's report a couple hours ago, and the coroner did confirm, yes, it was a knife that killed these students.
Mike,
the weapon, though, is still missing.
It's still missing, though, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Police have said they still do not know where it is. They're still searching for it.
All right, Mike, the fact that investigators are asking about specific types of knives, these military-type knives, what does that tell you about the information that they've been able to gather here, even though they haven't found the weapon?
Yeah, I mean, isn't that something to say we're looking for a K-bar knife and defining exactly what that weapon is? What gave them that information to say that's the weapon we're looking for? Enough to go to stores and say, do you sell this particular weapon? And thankfully, if they do know this piece of information, they're going to go back and be able to go to distributors and find out what locations do sell that kind of a weapon. I suspect that this weapon has been in the possession of the killer for some time before this event, and that it's going to be a pretty long shot to find video footage of them just picking it up the night of the murder or the day before.
Sally, do we have any idea, like a school like this, is it mostly in-state people who are going? Are there people coming from out of state? I mean, because I'm wondering if it's a possibility that if this was a student and everyone's going home, is someone leaving the state? Any idea about the student body there?
Right. I would say this majority in-state, but then also Moscow, Idaho is right along the border of Washington. So there's also a lot of students coming in from Washington. That's probably the two states with the biggest population, but there are certainly out-of-state students as well.
So Mike, how much of a challenge is this? I mean, because I would think that it could be someone who lives locally, could be someone who is passing through, could be someone connected to the victims, could be a random student. How difficult is it when you have a university and you have a population that's there and then can disperse at any time, go back home?
Yeah, and that the university is located at a crossroads heading east, west, north, well, west, north, and south primarily. So it has arteries that are bringing a lot of folks through. There are two major highways that kind of split the downtown region, and we know that two of these kids were at a bar downtown, and I looked online, and there are a batch of bars down between those two highway systems through that section of town. So you have to think about the victimology. But the one thing we know about victimology, and we've talked about it a bunch of times, Vinny, is that while we might say somebody who's low risk is generally hurt by somebody known to them, once they step out of that zone and start doing changing their environment or their circumstance, going out and partying all night, driving around, going to food trucks in the early morning hours, and this certainly isn't victim shaming. These kids did not deserve this.
They did exactly what we all did.
Yeah, exactly. But when you change that, you change your risk level, and that changes us from being targeted to being victims of opportunity. So that's why things like what happened in that homicide, what kind of wounds are on these victims, whether they're defensive wounds or otherwise, and I think we'll probably get into some of that, but that's what's really going to start bringing this thing together.
All right, our guest, Sally Krutzig from the Idaho Statesman, Mike King staying with us. We're going to take you inside that murder house coming up, but first, coming up next hour.
Tonight, two big trials drawing to a close here on Court TV. One in L.A., where actor and star of that 70s show, Danny Masterson, faces 3 rape charges. What will the jury say? We are live in L.A. with all the latest. And in Tampa, Florida, Matthew Terry has been convicted of murdering his girlfriend with a knife. And it's not the first time he's been convicted of stabbing a woman. Will the jury recommend the ultimate punishment in this death penalty case? We are live in Tampa.
Everybody was there. and we had dinner. Next thing you know, the last 2 bullets went directly in my head.
These are the stories
It's a crime of passion.
of the victims killed
How could this have happened?
by someone they knew.
I really screwed up.
Someone they knew with Tamron Hall. Thanksgiving Marathon begins Thanksgiving Day, 11:10 Central, only on
directclub.com.
Have a good night. Bye. Hello.
Hi.
Welcome back.
Thanks. I think I would like the carbonara.
Okay. I feel a mouth.
But if I have like a free grub truck on my app.
Oh, yep. So what you want to do is.
So there you see 2 of the victims, and that was Kaylee Goncalves ordering food at the food truck. They stream it on an app called Twitch, Grub Truckers on Twitch. So there's so much video of them there that night. And from there, here's the route that they may have taken, going from the food truck, Main Street, downtown Moscow, to their home. And it's about 1.2 miles away. Now, if you're going to walk it, it's probably about 23 minutes or so. I guess you could walk it, you could drive it, you could Uber it, however you're going to do it. But that's from where they were last seen on that video, back to the house where they were murdered. That's 2 of the victims. Here's the chief talking about the other 2, Ethan and Zana.
As we continue our investigation, we have learned that Ethan and Xana were at a party on campus, and Madison and Kaylee were at a downtown bar. They arrived home sometime after 1:45. We know that these homicides occurred in the early morning hours of Sunday, November 13th. Around noon, Moscow officers received a call of an unconscious person. Officers discovered the bodies of Ethan Chapin, Xana Kernodle, Madison Mogan, and Kaylee Goncalves inside the residence on King Road. The 4 were stabbed with a knife, but no weapon has been located at this time.
I've got some images to show you of the actual home because it was listed for rent on apartments.com, and you can see what it is. The way it's described is recently remodeled, but it was a 6-bedroom, 3-bath home. But it was 3 levels. And each level, the first level, second level, third level, described as having 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. So an interesting layout in this house, but again, multi-leveled, 3 different levels, each level with 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. So 6-bed, 3-bath total. But you can see some of the images of it that were online. A nice little place. For college kids, are you kidding me? But it raises some questions, you know, both where the house is located towards the food truck, and then what's going on inside, because as we know, 4 murder victims, but 2 other roommates also in the house. That's what's been described to us. Let's bring back in our guests, Sally Krudzig, Idaho Statesman reporter, Mike King, retired police commander, host of Profiling Evil on YouTube. Sally, do we know if Kaylee and Madison walked or drove from the food trucks back to the house that night?
So we have not had police confirmation of this, but Kaylee's sister has publicly said that they Ubered. They took an Uber to the bar, went to a food truck downtown, and then took an Uber to their home.
And that would make sense because I think in that food truck video, you see them checking their phone. So if your Uber shows up, you're gonna check your phone, and then you know when it's here. Let me ask you, Mike King, you saw the description of the house. We took you inside. 3 levels. Does that make it more possible that 2 people could have slept through a quadruple murder inside the home?
So we start thinking about the multiple entries that are into the home. Look like sliding glass doors in some rooms, whether there's a back door and a front door. Certainly 3 floors, you can get some separation. And again, you think about this, college kids, and some are playing music, others are listening on their iPods and zoning out and not hearing what's going on. Some may just flat be asleep. This is different than a gunshot homicide. This is again, it's going to boil down to whether this was a horrid, aggressive, violent, multiple stab wounds kind of a thing, and I hate to be too grotesque, or was it more of an execution in each of these murders? And so that could lend one way or another whether someone was able to hear or not. But I'm not too concerned that there actually were people inside the home that didn't hear something, Vinny. It took them until noon the next day to go check on their friends and say, hey, are you going wherever we're going, and make the discovery.
Sally, this was originally, there was reporting originally that this was a crime of passion. Where did that come from? What was the genesis of that phraseology?
Right. So that originally came from the New York Times interviewed the mayor, and the mayor used that phrase, crime of passion. I spoke to him a couple hours after that, and he, was definitely pulling back on that statement. He said, I shouldn't have speculated. I was just putting out examples of what it could be. I could have said burglary. I could have said anything. I said crime of passion, but I don't know. And, I spoke to Ethan's mother, and she said she's been hurt by a lot of the rumors that have come out. People hear crime of passion, they start speculating, well, who was involved? And she was reading these online. She was reading, well, were the kids involved in this or that? And, she said, we just don't know. And all this speculating from the mayors or whoever isn't necessarily helpful until the police actually give us real information.
Mike, when you say crime of passion, that has a meaning. There's an attachment to it, and it would become a big part of the investigation. Is it possible investigators would speak quickly with the mayor, and then all of a sudden the mayor slips something out that he shouldn't have slipped out? Or do you think the mayor was just speaking out of turn?
It feels like the mayor didn't know how to verbalize this horrific event, and that came to mind. If this were a crime of passion, it would most likely be focused on one individual. That means that 3 additional people just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, and the bad guy who's involved in this passionate murder couldn't get out without executing others. It makes you worry a whole lot more about what fantasies are going on in the predator's mind in this particular case, Vinny, that it was more systematic in nature. And holy cow.
When you say systematic, do you mean that they would have to be sleeping, or they would be in such a position that, like, they're afraid to move because he's threatening to do something and then acts quickly?
Yeah, I think we have to consider that. We have to consider that he gains control of at least 2, maybe 2 come home at a later time because we know they split up, but that somehow he gains control. And I'm saying he because the police and others have indicated the he. We don't know who it is, but that he gains control of them in some way. And I'll tell you, that control could be very easy. Listen, I'm going to just tie you up and gag you so that I can steal something. And normal people like you and me are thinking, do whatever you got to do and get out of my house. But then once he's got control, he can do it in any method and manner that he wants to do. And that's what's so frightening about these things. So you go back to, it really is going to play out to see what's learned in the autopsy, see the manner and the method of those executions, and that's going to tell us what the fantasy of this predator was, which I think will help identify who it is.
All right, Mike King, Profiling Evil podcast. Great to have you on tonight. Appreciate your time and insight. Sally Krudzig doing great work reporting on all this from the Idaho Statesman. Thank you so much. We'll speak again.